On today's podcast, Dan Moore is back. This is part 2, and we go in depth on how he went from one location to open up his second location successfully.
We've never taken any investment for the 2 gyms. Everything we've done is it's all self-funded through personal loans or our own money. Because it's all well and good, again, having an idea. Putting that idea into action is then very difficult, dealing with legal solicitors. To be the best, you've got to be open to criticism, be open to knowing your weak spots. We started selling memberships 7 weeks out, I think, from opening.
The announcement.
We kept it under wraps. We announced it on social media without anyone knowing. From that one organic post, we got like 250 names. So although you might look at mentorship and help with marketing or whatever sales, you're future-proofing your investment longer term, because you will lose that money personally if you don't learn from it. I think having an eye on what's going on in the industry is very important. And if you feel you need that help from that one person that's good at that one thing, even though it costs a lot more money, you will get more back from it.
This is a fantastic podcast. Let's get into it. Dan, welcome to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. This is podcast number 2 with you. We brought you back because it'd be awesome to get an update on your journey and what you've achieved. For anyone that has not seen podcast number 1, we filmed it about 9 months ago. That was with Charlie. If they search on YouTube or Spotify or any of the other listening apps, it'd be easy to find it. So I think just to give context to everything we're about to talk about, and the main focus of this podcast is you've gone from successful gym number 1 to opening number 2 and the lessons learned. And I think this is super valuable for the fitness community, because so many people build up that first gym and then they get to that level where they're like, okay, what do I do next? Do I go to site 2, or do I do something completely different, or do I just stay as I am? So before we go into the decision to go to site 2 and then the pros and cons and everything that you faced to open site 2, let's recap a little bit. So when did you open site 1?
So site 1 opened September 2016.
And prior to that, how long had you been in the fitness industry?
5 years as a one-to-one sort of PT, mobile PT.
And your background was football?
Yeah, I played professionally for 8-9 years. Played football in total for about 11 years since leaving school, but my full-time job essentially before getting into the fitness industry was playing football. Left that, had a year out of doing nothing really and just playing football, and to decide what I want to do, and then decided to get my certs. 2011 got qualified, and then had 5 years sort of finding my way in the industry, and then just slowly found my way towards having my own gym after building up my client base.
And what's the square footage of gym number 1, and what is the current membership levels there right now? So
in Inverness, we opened originally, our first site was 1,500 square foot. That was just me. We built that up to 130 members within 2 years. Essentially just, off the cuff, bootstrapped it. We were told we had to leave that unit. We had like 2 months notice. The first place we found is the unit we're in now, luckily.
That's the one I've been to.
Yeah. It's more central in Inverness. We were more on the outskirts before.
I think we'll flash up some footage for anyone watching on YouTube so they can see it.
So we've constantly evolved that unit. We've been there for 5 years now. So we moved in there in November 2018, and we've just gone past 5 years. We've renegotiated a lease for another 10 years with a first option to buy, which we're very hopeful, as a side note as well, thinking more longer term. But we still lease that unit, but we've got it for the next 10 years. That unit is just under 4,000 square foot, I believe, around 3,700. Floor training space of about 3,000. We have change rooms, showers, and a waiting area and offices in there. We've got our own parking, which is very handy, being in a central industrial estate. So it's very convenient to Inverness and outside Inverness. So we moved in there with about 130 members up to COVID, which was between January 2019 through to March 2020. We went from 130 to about 210, 220. COVID happened, obviously, for that next 12 to 18 months. That was quite turbulent. We maybe dropped at the lowest to maybe like 160, but obviously with furlough and grants and the government help, we were never in a bad position. I think we lost max maybe 30% of our business, but the clients were very good to us, very loyal, stood by us. We did provide or try to provide a lot of value at that given time, as you'd experienced by FMA. You did your best. We did that. We tried to go above and beyond, as we always do, and we quickly bounced back following opening. And probably since after opening lockdown 2, which was May 2021, if I think right. So over the last 2.5 years, we've been building from I guess that 220 mark up to closer towards 300. We've been trying to get to that target. We've averaged probably over the last couple of years a sort of active membership base of about 270. I think we may have peaked at the tail end of last year at around 280. So that sort of stage between 200 and 300 has been quite a difficult stage because you don't have that massive fast growth like you do when you open sites, when you're new and you're fresh. We obviously had COVID, we had a big turnaround transition with like older clients and new clients, changing that sort of our marketing, our demographic changed slightly to quite a slightly older demographic. We maybe lost a lot of long-standing members that were just with me from the start. They want to try something different, which is fine. But then we had an influx of new people, so the brand has sort of evolved and changed over that time. Our product and service delivery, I think, over the last 6 months of the year especially is far and away better than we've ever done. We've worked very hard on that. So yeah, now in Inverness, we're at roughly around 285 active members between recurring monthly members and trials.
Roughly, how much is the trial? How long is the trial? And then roughly, how much is ongoing fees?
Yeah, so our trial is 159 for 4 weeks. It's a 28-day challenge. We've done that for 5-6 years now. We have iterated on that a little bit. At times we'll do maybe 90-day, 6-week challenges, seasonal dependent sometimes, maybe beginners, that sort of type thing. But generally it's always been a 4-week, 159. From that, then clients have the option of going into either a 12 or 20 session access. So 12 sessions every 4 weeks is 155 and 20 sessions every 5 weeks is 205. That's how we've got, sort of iterated and got to. We've tried different offerings. We've tried 8. That didn't quite work because I don't think members always go for the lowest option is always the best. You know, if it was,
you mean 8 session pack?
Yeah,
for the month.
Yeah, we didn't feel it was enough. So although maybe it'd be easier for members and us to sign people up at that package, I don't think we're ever doing people the best service by doing that. Obviously, if people need to or had to because they maybe ran or cycled a lot out with the gym and DM Elite was there to supplement that, we understood. But generally, in the whole, the people we work with, we know they need at least 3 sessions with us a week to build habits, continuity, and to become more self-sufficient in the gym environment, I think. The
team, how many coaches on the floor? Is there anyone behind the scenes? I know your wife helps.
Yeah, so Amy does a lot of the back end operations, integrating the itty-bitty stuff, I guess, that I'm not so good at. I get distracted, I think ahead all the time.
As any entrepreneur.
Yeah. I think, and Amy's very forward thinking as well, but I think she's just got more of a foresight in terms of what needs done. I think her attention to detail's better than mine in terms of like day to day, how things look, how things should be. Going by our core values, our core values be elite. So we have to ensure that from cleanliness to staff appearance to the look, feel, smell, standard of sessions.
What's her job? A title, official role?
Well, Amy's the director, I'm the director. So we both run the business day to day. We've obviously got 2 sites, so between the 2 of us, we've done the 2 sites. But generally, in the whole, we do spend more time still in site 1. So we'll both be in most days, or every day really.
And site 1, how many coaching team on the floor?
So we now have 5 coaches in site 1. Up to 3 months ago, we always had 4, and I was a sort of spare part. If holidays, sickness came up, I would step in and coach. But
which is so common. I think a lot of gym owners, they work themselves out of the business, but then if they look at the calendar month, they're pulled back in for sickness, cover, holidays. So
it's very much like I think to best serve the coaching staff and to best lead the coaching staff and to best get that service consistent across the board, I had to more take a bird's eye view, I think, and look over everything, lead the staff more than try to lead clients and staff, because it's very difficult when you've got almost 300 members you can't keep track of all those, but also having the 5-6 staff actually in Inverness and the 2 staff in Nairn or site 2, that's 8 staff we're responsible for. So we have to ensure that those staff are being guided in the right direction. They're leading themselves, they're leading the clients, they're giving the clients the best service, and we can lead them to our best ability. And I think that's been a big focus over the last 6 months, and something we've had to do and take a step back a little bit and just change our day-to-day sort of roles rather than being so fast-paced.
I think from me looking in, and tell me if I'm wrong, the business has scaled and grown. You built the systems, good retention, you get making front end sales, it's a good team. And maybe the best way to describe it for me was everything was comfortable, right?
Yeah, I think the way we saw it, I guess, was Site 1's amazing. Site 1's doing very well for us, but in terms of career pathways for this team, I think was the main one, because we would get staff to a point, but from a staff's perspective, I think if staff were hungry, ambitious like we are, and growth-minded, we had to facilitate that. And you can't always force that. We tried different things before. We tried online things. We tried different offerings, integrating into Site 1, but it didn't always quite work. What we're best at is running gyms and small group personal training, large group personal training, whatever you want to call it, and really that model of like giving people that personal training experience in a sort of class or group environment. And that was our main sort of driver. That's what we know what our unique selling point is. So our thought process was, why are we distracting ourselves with things that we're not so good at and try to learn the ins and outs of different parts of the industry? Why don't we just stick to what we're good at and try and really make a go of this? And that's what we've done since. And it's been more uncomfortable, but we've soon learned to find that, with the right systems and the right team, it's doable.
I just want to paint a picture of sort of the life that you were living before you made that decision to open site number 2, because people listening or watching this will connect with it because they have potentially also built a successful business, and it's like, do I really want to add more potential pressure, stress, time, energy, effort into opening site 2? You've got 2 young girls.
Yeah.
How old are they?
5 and 8.
So what was the day in the life of Dan, between you and your wife, managing the business, managing the children? Was you involved school runs, like what social life, things like that? Yeah,
well, pretty much, probably similar to what it is now. We've got Site 2. Well, I guess we'll touch on this later, but we're kind of at that stage again, funnily enough. So it's gone full circle. But generally, I like to touch base with clients as much as I can. So I'll try and get in. I'll get in one early morning, sort of one evening through the week. But I'd run a general day will be wake up 6 o'clock, walk the dogs, 2 dogs as well. 7 o'clock home, so I'll have a couple hours with the kids between 7 and 9 after walking the dogs. So I guess the early morning walk gets my head straight. I understand what I need to do for the day.
Are you listening to anything?
Podcasts, FMA podcasts, obviously. I'm quite a big podcast guy. Audibles, I'll always be listening to something. Probably to my detriment, I think, and it gets to the point sometimes where not having something to listen to and just having time to think, it feels a lot more icky, I guess, and uncomfortable, but I think it's needed sometimes. I've learned that over the last period of time where overconsumption can actually lead to a lot of mixed messaging, which I've learned. So being clear on what the long-term vision is and what we're trying to do and making sure what I do listen to aligns with that, I guess, is the main thing, and not to get distracted. But I'll spend a couple hours with the girls in the morning. We'll get them ready, which is challenging, probably the hardest part of the day, as you'll know. We're fortunate we live a couple minutes walking distance to the school, so get them ready, get them out the door at 8:30, walk them to school, walk them back. As soon as I walk them back, drive to the gym. The gym's a 5-10 minute drive, so we're fortunate in that sense that we're quite close to Evan, and then we'll get into the gym for 9 o'clock, and between 9 o'clock and pick up time, like 2:30, we'll be in the gym doing something. Be that we'll train in the gym, myself and Amy, we'll always take part in sessions the coaches run, and we'll spend then time in the gym making sure, keeping an eye on obviously the standard of the coaching, the sessions, touching base with the one-to-one with the staff to ensure that they've got time with us, because the guys that work in our Site 2 will generally be in Inverness as well, so we'll see everyone generally through Site 1, which is good. They'll still train in Inverness, they'll still pop in and ensure they're touching base with the rest of the team. So making sure it's working towards a social event, maybe making sure everyone's in line there, making sure numbers, marketing, sales are all in line, making sure the standard of the coaching is good, and I guess reacting to things which you do as a business owner. At 2:30, we'll pick our youngest up. The second one we're fortunate we'll walk home now. So by the time it comes around to 3:30, then it's after school activities with the girls or more work generally, and that's probably the unseen thing that it maybe sounds really cushy and good between 9 to 2, but I guess as a business owner, as you know yourself, it's as much as you say you like to switch off, you don't really switch off. And it's making sure we can detach ourselves from our phones and spend time with the girls in the evening, give them an hour or two dedicated time, and we'll probably once the kids go to bed, we'll probably spend an hour or two, probably do more work, planning events, doing our social media, brandings, talking about the next day, and that's generally a day. It's all consuming between kids and business.
I think, as you said, every business owner has that. So I think it's easy to paint a picture of, like this 4-hour work week potentially.
Yeah.
Every business owner is consistently switched on. And, and if you've got big ambitions, you're consistently going to drive and push towards that. So the gym is systematized. It's producing the money that you want. Life is good and comfortable and happy. What was the main driving force? And what do you remember, like the conversation you had, or did something trigger it to go, you know what, it's now time to go site 2?
I think, like I said, we've been dabbling in different things. I actually remember lying in bed watching TV, and it was a YouTube video, a Hormozy one, which is probably very current for the listeners of this show. Everyone will know what I mean. It was the bright shiny object video, and about not getting distracted by the lady in the red shiny dress, basically the Matrix analogy. I'm sure you can link it onto this video if people aren't sure, but it's a very good video.
I think what we're doing in the edit on YouTube maybe is we'll just throw a clip in maybe.
Great. Yeah, it's a 10-minute video, and essentially it's about not getting distracted, doubling down your attention on things that maybe aren't so sexy, that maybe, because I think a big thing that he goes on to is like business owners, when you start new, you're gratified instantly by doing new stuff all the time. But when you've been in the business for a while, you soon learn that you don't evolve more, grow more, make more impact, value, drive more value by just doing new stuff all the time. What you've got to do is I guess, rely on the compound effect of being good at what you do longer term. And he went on about like, you can do what you want to do by just scaling the one thing and rather than doing 3 things. Because I guess the old analogy, if you try and chase 2 things at once, you won't catch any, whereas you focus on the one thing. And if we know all our attention's going on that one thing, we've got a good chance of success. And I think I touched upon that in the last podcast, and that was really the thought process. And I just turned around and said to him, like, we've got open site 2. It was literally, I still remember it. And then the next day it was like on the hunt for opportunity and commercial property, because it's all well and good again having an idea. Putting that idea into action is then very difficult. Dealing with legal solicitors, estate agents, you'll know this. But also where we are, there's not a huge amount of commercial property available. It's in short supply. Where we want, like high streets, yes, there might be, but we don't want to be in a high street where we are. We need to be easy access, parking. That's how we've built our model out so far. So we're very particular in terms of where we want to be and what we want to do and the size. It's got to be a certain price per square foot, certain square footage, the layout, the shape of the unit's got to be right. You've got to be able to put the equipment in to fit your system. So you can't just, the mistake we probably made before was, there's a space, we'll open that, we'll make it work, whereas now we know what works.
How quickly did you go from the idea and the inspiration to go, you know what, it's time, to the first customer coming through the door?
So it was the end of November, I remember saying that to Amy, 2022. And from end of November 2022, we had our first clients in 1st of July 2023. That process was long because...
Outside your control?
It was outside our control because the unit was occupied. It was vacant, but still under a lease. So we tried to negotiate a lease, a sublease almost, with the person that occupied it. Could we just take it now and take over the lease now? But it was a council-owned property, so they were insistent to run to end the lease, which in hindsight now, they could have done a lot better out of it, I think, if they just let us have it then. But it is what it is. We had to adhere to their sort of way they wanted to do it. So it went up in the open market with the council. It was basically put your best bid in for the lease, basically. So we put a strong bid in. We put a strong covering letter in. We had strong proof that our business worked. We weren't a new business. We had council proof through rates and the last 5 years with our Cadence site that we weren't a new business. This was a real thing. This is how we'll do it. This is how we'll add value into property. We're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to spend this much on the property. And we won that bid, essentially. I remember it was just before we went on holiday to America. So I think the closing date for the bids was 31st of January. Our bid went in at the end of January. I think there was about 18, 19 people in for the unit. Wow. So there's a lot of interest. it goes to show supply and demand, what I was talking about there. And then the 1st of March, we found out we'd actually got it. Once the 1st of March came around, then it had to take a 8 to 12 week change of usage net, because obviously England, you don't have that now, but in Scotland you have to.
You still have that? I didn't realise.
Yeah, unfortunately. And we still have business rates 100%, which England don't have, but we'll make it work. But we had to get that change of usage through, which took 12 weeks. So we got the change of use submitted. That cost money. Again, we didn't know it would come off. Had to get lawyers, solicitors to act on us. They went on holiday for 2.5 weeks, came back. We sort of knew the change of use would come through, because the council wouldn't accept the unit and reject the change of use. I mean, it was just almost like adhering to the process. But it gave us time with staff. We then we knew we'd have to hire 2 people for an Nairn, their second site.
Just to give context, how far is site 1 to site 2?
It's like, in a good day, 15 minutes, and a bad day, 25 minutes, or average 20 minutes.
How big a population roughly Inverness, and what's the second location?
Nairn. So Nairn is like, I believe, 10,000, but there's a lot of small villages on the outskirts.
And what was the fitness industry like in Nairn?
There wasn't much. There was there was 1 or 2 like sort of like council run gyms at our club. There was nothing we did.
Did you have a lot of residents of that town driving to yours, or was it not?
Maybe a dozen, maybe 10, 12. They have since then just like moved to that gym, and we still have 1 or 2 that will maybe float between the 2, because I guess a lot of people in Nairn will work in Inverness, even though they live there, so it might be easier to come to our gym. But yeah, we knew back in March we had to hire. So again, similar to like taking that step back to move too forward, we had to hire 3 staff for 2 gyms without having 2 gyms for 4 months. So it was 3.
They were on payroll.
They were on payroll for 3-4. So it was a big decision we made, because we didn't want to. It's a mistake, I think, moving ahead. I think a mistake you could potentially make is think, right, we've opened a second site, we'll hire somebody 2 to 4 weeks before we open the second site. It's not enough. Like we were of the impression that we had to embed those 3 people into the culture, into the day-to-day running, see some good days, see some bad days, see some indifferent times, see busy sessions, not so busy sessions. You don't see enough, I think, in 4 weeks to know how a pattern of working in a small group personal training gym works. So March, April, May and June, we had extra staff in the payroll, and still the 1 gym. So it did impact profit for that period of time, but we knew, looking to now, that we had to almost take that step back to move 2 forward.
And a vital question that I missed, and people are probably wondering, what is the model of gym 1, and then is it the exact same model in gym 2?
It's similar. So it's a 1 to 10 sort of ratio. So it's maybe not large group, it's maybe not exactly small group as people will perceive it now. But we still believe that we're at a small group level. I think it's how it's coached. I think that's the important thing, no matter what the ratio is. We put a lot of time into CPD and spend a lot of time on our staff to make sure that the sessions are of that personal training quality within a group environment. And that's really the unique selling point. So yeah, that's all we do. We don't really do open gym. There is a bit of it, but it's not what we sell. So that is really our one thing. We don't have different tiers. We don't really do 1-to-1. We don't really do open gym. We do a bit of both, but it's not something we promote. The real one concept is a small group thing. We don't do the 2 sort of small group, large group offerings. We keep it quite simple. We have 2 price tiers. Again, it's very simple. The staff only ever need to know that we have 2 offerings. It's not like 3-4 offerings, but in 3-4 different levels.
Or 10. Some gyms is crazy.
Yeah, and we'd been through that stage where you're just, because it was a scarcity mindset, I think, in the sense like it's that you just take what you can get almost, but it's been assertive and decisive enough to know what works for the client and what works for the business, and we've got to make sure those things work, because all you ever do, you get busy, you're busy full, and you have to retract and understand that this model's not working. So it's a 1 to 10. So in Inverness we can take 20 people at one time across our sort of 2 rooms and the whole space, and we have 2 coaches with 20 people, maybe up to 24 depending on the session size and the session format. And Nairn, our max capacity is 10 generally. So it's just a small space.
Location number 2, 10 is the max capacity.
Yeah, and we have 1 person on staff in location 2, and we have 2 people on staff.
We'll get some video footage from you, so we can splash it up now and show people what location 2 looks like. My next question, is how did you fund it? And how much did it cost?
So, yeah, pretty solid. We actually got a £10,000 grant, which was helpful. So we didn't get that till everyone was paid, but we used the local council.
Is that just a Inverness thing or Scottish thing, or
It's like a business gateway type grant. So I'm sure business gateways are the likes are similar all over Britain. It's local council business funding basically. And
to expand, or
yeah, basically for tech or software or to create more jobs. So I was off very much to the opinion, quite lazy with it, like, that won't work. I had a friend that knew somebody that worked in that organisation. They said, yeah, you should apply, you never know, because the money's there to be used. And we were creating more jobs, we were expanding. So, yeah, our operations Lisa, she kind of persisted with putting the grant through. It took a lot of toing and froing, a lot of, yeah, I think it was quite challenging. I think they expect people to drop out of it, but we persisted with it. We got it through. So we got a £10,000 grant. So we were in a good way from that point of view. We initially thought that the facility was in a very bad way in the sense of like it was a engineering company before, so there was no real walls. It was pretty bare, no like insulation or protected walls. The floor was, yeah, there's oil in the drains. You know, it was quite a dirty place really to take over. The bare essentials of it were good. The parking, the size, the site, the location was good, but we knew it would take a bit of work, so we got contractors and they said it'd be like £15,000 to do like the walls, change the bathrooms to what we were spec, our flooring in the reception area, and the painting. And that £15,000 I think turned into like 25 once they had the guy that priced the job. We soon found out was not very good at the job. It wasn't our fault. I guess we were very much opinion if you get a quote, you get a quote, and that's, you know, the business should adhere to it, but we had to pay more. We were too late in the process.
Because they were uncovering things as they went, or just like...
Yeah, I think the owner basically came in and thought, you know, this guy came in and basically, yeah, we'll do it for 15k. And I thought, brilliant, that sounds good. It's pretty competitive. And because everyone was moving at quite a quick pace, didn't get multiple quotes, we went with these guys, said, right, okay, if it's 15k, we'll go with yous. Came back from holiday, 3 weeks before we got the keys. Yeah, this is going to cost like 20-25. So we weren't happy about it, obviously, but we couldn't really do much. It's one of those ones where we could have got more quotes, but it might have took 2 weeks longer to open the gym, and we couldn't afford that. So we went with it. So we were 25k for the construction, I believe. The kit was £30,000.
Who did you go with?
Origin Fitness. So we financed the kit. So
did you use them before, or was it a brand new relationship? Or?
Had a relationship with them, but we'd never really done with Inverness. It was always maybe a bit from Overson, a bit from Black Box, a bit from Origin, that sort of type thing. Archie from Origin was very good. He came, he looked at the place before we got it, and yeah, so we decided to go Origin. We could have maybe done multiple different providers, but we just wanted to keep it quite simple, like the contractors. So if the contractors own that process, they're responsible for that. If the equipment suppliers and installations responsible for this, then that's the one place we go. We had enough complexity built into like the staff and the upfit and opening to not worry about multiple suppliers. I think that was the main sort of thought process.
Deliveries come in random dates, you can't open because something's missing. What kit did you go for?
In terms of like fit out?
Yeah.
So we have 4 bays, squat racks, cables built into them, as well as pulleys, which was something. The funny thing was because we decided then fit out in there in this way, we knew that we had to upgrade Inverness that late way as well, so we had to refit Inverness. So our equipment cost turned went from 30k to 40k because
you had to match it.
We had to match Inverness.
So you put pulley system in.
Pulley system, new racks. So we saved a bit of space in the racks. 2 ski ergs, 2 rowers, and 2 bike ergs, 1 road bike, and kettlebells, dumbbells, plates, standard. Couple of sets of each. So we've got more than enough kit inside too. But yeah, with that we didn't want, because Inverness had obviously got to this point and we didn't have the second gym without our sort of loyal customer base in Inverness. We wanted to make sure that we weren't like giving Inverness subpar sort of product or service. So we knew that if we're going to do it, we might as well do it now. So it's okay, that 10 turned into 40. So that 40k of equipment we financed through the business over 5 years. So that cost us like maybe £1,000 a month.
Is that through Origin or a third party?
Third party.
Finance company.
Finance company. So we finance all the kit. I mean, you do pay more for it, but to take 40 to 45,000 pound out of the business is a big chunk when you're opening. We want to protect the cash flow from a business point of view, but everything else we paid for, I guess, cash or outright. So 40k on kit, finance, and the rest, which was about maybe, I want to say about 30k. So 70k between the two gyms for everything. 10 of which we got our grant for, so that took 10k off, so it's 60. Then 60 then turned into obviously 20 because we financed 40 of it, and then so about £20,000 of our own money we used. We didn't take any investment. We've never taken any investment for the two gyms. Everything we've done is through, it's all self-funded through personal loans or our own money, and that's we've done it from the start. So
I think it's an important part just to focus on for a few minutes is someone's either thinking of opening up gym 1 or they're thinking of going to gym number 2, and some of the mistakes that we overhear and see and when we speak to gym owners is, oh, my client is very wealthy, they've given me some money, or my family member's given me some money, and you ask, is there a contract? Oh no, it's just a handshake, I'll pay them back. And it just doesn't sound right. And so the route you've gone is obviously the savings in the business, and then financing the kit through a finance company, and very easy, you've been able to scale and open a second location.
Yeah, I think if you need to take finance to open one gym, I get if the bigger play is maybe opening 3 or 10 gyms, taking an investor makes sense, but we're not quite sure, I guess, in the sense of how far we go. So I think to take an investment and somebody takes a chunk of a business, it's a very short term win. I think you'll soon regret that. I think
probably like the personal training client has a really good relationship with the gym owner. They want them to, or the PT that then becomes a gym owner, they want them to do well. They've got maybe a little bit of money behind them, but they're not really a serious investor.
No.
They just maybe want to say, oh yeah, I own a gym, or I'm a shareholder in that gym. But really, I would encourage anyone listening to this, watching this, to self-fund it. Don't get a third-party friend or family member involved. Go Google, how to get funding. Because there might be schemes out there like you got that 10 grand grant.
Got 10 grand plus, like you can get a loan from like the company that financed our kit. We could have got a bigger loan and paid, rather than just paying £1,000 a month over 5 years for kit, we could paid £2,000 and done like 2. So. Yeah, just be very careful, because the biggest thing for me was control and decision making, and how we live our life. I didn't want somebody else to dictate how we live their life. I get when businesses go to a level past and way past where we are, you taking investment is part of the game. But I think really for what us as gyms and people maybe listening to this that have gyms 1, 2 sites, maybe unless you are going to go to 5, 10, I don't really think, in my eyes, it makes a lot of sense.
So like one company that comes into my mind is startup loans.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who's brand new, just wants to start a business as funding, but if you've got a successful business, you've got money coming in, many banks will just loan you. You're not looking for $1 million investment. Most gyms aren't.
No.
You might do that if you're in central London and you're looking to add a spa into it or whatever.
That's another thing. It's very much location dependent. If somebody from Inverness maybe hears some, I know guys that have taken investment, I know the reasons to take investment, and it works for them where they are, but not all things are equal in the UK. Like different places commercially. Yes. Some people couldn't buy their unit commercially because it's just too expensive. Whereas in Inverness, I know what we pay. I know people pay less than us. So it just makes it maybe papers up a lot of cracks by taking investment, I would say.
Let's shift to the announcement. So did you keep it under wraps, or did you tell key members, or did you tell all the team at once? And then let's transition into the actual marketing of this new location, the sales, and then also the conversation with current existing clients.
So first question was, what was it?
Team.
A team. Yeah. So we announced it to the team. We told them a meeting. I can't remember when it was. Maybe when we put the bid in and when it was through. And also we told them together when it was accepted. Because one of the team, Adam, we sort of spoke to her before, and we asked her before we went for it. We very much were of the opinion that she'd got to a level where she had to run her own site, essentially, the next step for her career, to push her. She was up for that, so we knew that we had to keep her in line with all the comms. In terms of members, we kept it under wraps until basically we could. 1 or 2 people found out through the grapevine. 1 or 2 people pestered me in the gym to the point where I had to tell them, because they're maybe from that area, and they'll know who they are. But we kept it under wraps. We announced it on social media without anyone knowing, so it was very much new. We got lots of, I think we put a post out and created a waiting list link, and I think from that one organic post we got like 250 names from Nairn that were interested. Obviously they didn't know from Adam what the product was. Obviously people maybe think, oh, new gym Nairn, it'll be 30 quid. Obviously when they found out it was maybe like 150 to 170 pounds, and maybe obviously that maybe didn't work for them. But in terms of interest, we knew that we gathered quite a lot of pace quite early. So with that priority notification list we knew we had a waiting list of like 200 and over 200 that we could contact without turning on any ads.
So that was just one organic
post, yeah.
Social media post on Instagram.
Personal, like
personal. Yeah.
My it went to the gym page, but the gym page Inverness obviously might have people. A lot of people in Inverness will know people from there, and a lot of people got tagged. A lot of people put the form through. By the time we actually phoned them when it opened, a lot of people didn't remember putting the form through, like it always happens. But
what was the so you announced it, and then there was a time lag, right? Because you're busy setting everything up.
Yeah, so we got the keys. So we announced it at the maybe beginning of May, end of April, when we got back from holiday, because we'd taken on this new staff. After we told our staff, we told our members in Inverness, because obviously we felt they had the right to know. So we put on the members page in Inverness before we put it publicly on social media, so they knew first. They understood that I did a sort of broadcast and a live video announcing why we're doing it, what the reason was. We're not just chasing more and more and more, because I think it's a very personal business and people know you and they will understand your decision making because they feel, and they have the right to know, because I think all our clients in small group PT gyms feel they're almost they are shareholders in the gym. They have the gym's best interests at heart. And I think it's a strength of the gym there where you can be transparent and they can understand the person. So we had to understand their personal reasoning, which a lot of it was for it, like our own personal growth. It's something I wanted to do, and Amy wanted to do from a challenge point of view to see how we get on. Because I always felt that, was Gym 1 just a fluke? If I do 2 and 2 go well, then I'm maybe quite good at this. So it may be more proof of concept. So a lot of proving to ourselves, I think, in that sense, and to know it wasn't this lack of not just built on me, and how good a trainer I was at the time to build the initial client base up. So from myself and Amy's point of view, it was a next step in the journey point of view, but for like Erin and the other staff to create a pathway. That was a big reason.
So Erin moved across as manager?
Yeah, so she's like manager of Site 2. She essentially takes control of everything in Site 2.
So this one post goes organic, you get 250 plus inquiries. The build's going on, you got a deadline of when that's going to finish, you probably got the kit arriving. So then what happened, like in terms of selling the memberships and then the marketing? Yeah,
so we knew we were getting the keys at the 1st of June. The contractors, we asked them, could they do it in 4 weeks? They said maybe 3, maybe 5, as they do. But we pushed them in 4 weeks. So we wanted the place open and be ready to use the 1st of July. So we knew we had 4 weeks from essentially getting the keys. So come the 1st of May, I think we worked with the shelves, obviously, on the new, I can't remember the exact name of the funnel, but it was essentially the new location, gym launch. Yeah, gym launch. So we created the funnel, we put our ebook together to give more, so we essentially marketed an ebook to the Nairn public with proof of concept, testimonials, our history, what we've done, why you should maybe join us. So people then put in their email for more information. So it was more, I guess, a warmer maybe lead than the cold organic original post. So that did really well. We did that for a couple of weeks at the end of, I think, last week of April and first week of May. So we got maybe, I can't remember exactly how many leads, to be honest with you, but the leads were pretty cheap because obviously nobody else is marketing that area. And then we started selling memberships 7 weeks out, I think, from opening.
And was this in person or on the phone?
Phone, yeah.
And would you get any resistance?
I never did any of the sales. To be honest, Erin and Lisa in operations in Inverness did all the sales. I didn't do any. Obviously, I was promoting through my email list and the gym's email list. I'd write emails. I would do things through the social media channels, but I wasn't doing direct sales. But I don't think so on the whole. I think it gathered pace. I think when you maybe move into a new place, and I think maybe people in there would always have the expectation to have a product and service like this. They'd need to travel to Inverness. So I think the convenience factor, I think everyone was willing to give it a try. There was obviously, we didn't sign up everyone that was a lead because there was maybe a rebuttal in price potentially, but we sold between, I guess, beginning of May through to middle of June, we sold 75 on our 20-day challenge.
At
159. And that included a welcome pack. They got one of my books, they got a referral pass, bands, some merch, and a voucher for our store to buy a t-shirt. But yeah, we give a little bit of giveaway. And then
75 members before the doors open at 159,
yeah,
which is terrific. On the sales front, I just want to explain what it is that you put out. So it's a Facebook ad pushing people, hey, download a PDF brochure to find out more about this new gym. And one of the factors in that brochure and the emails, human behavior, people, if there's urgency to do something.
Curiosity and urgency,
and scarcity. So basically, what you promoted, just like any small group personal training, it's not like a massive pure gym where you can have 1,000 members sign up. You were driving on the fact like, hey, we're only accepting X amount of members.
Yeah, it's the same. We're not lying. It was there. We said we're, to be totally transparent, we're not. The limit will be between 130 and 150, and we won't be able to take any more than that. And that's still facts. We're still there in that. We're about around 125, 130 people now, and we know that probably 20 people will fill our gym out. So.
Do you know what your break even was? Like in the back of your mind, what was like worst case, best case scenario of what you wanted to open on?
Because things went so well so early, I never actually had to worry. I don't think about worst case, but I knew that like 60 recurring monthly members would be break even.
Because I guess that's a factor a lot of gym owners are considering. Yeah, I'm thinking of opening a second gym 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes away. But like what happens if there's not a demand for it?
And we knew the numbers. We knew that the risk, it's not like opening Inverness where it's a huge expense and it's a 4,000 square foot building. We knew it was slightly smaller operationally, so we knew we could be a bit more confident with like our, it's realistic to think going into month one we could get to that point where we're in the black and we're in a good point.
Did you have an opening party?
No, we did have an opening party, but it was after 8 weeks. We had a barbecue in there. So one of the members in there has a catering business. He brought a barbecue. It's literally next door to us, and we had members from Inverness come through. So it was their first chance to see the gym. It was in the summer holidays. So nice day. We had about 100 people over the day come through.
Did you get any press?
No, I don't think we did. We should have. We did more recently with a charity event we did. But yeah, looking back over there was still mistakes we made. Looking back at it, it was probably because we got so much via Facebook ads and through just natural curiosity. We got lazy on press. We got lazy on attending local events, the high street. We've still not done any of that. And a big goal of us for this year is to do more guerrilla style marketing.
I want you to advise me as a gym owner. I've got a gym that in my eyes is successful, but I think any business has holes in it that can be plugged and it can be innovated and improved. Advise me, should I or should I not take that leap of faith and do gym number 2?
It's such a loaded question. I think you can't until you know that site 1 has been profitable. It can, you're not that you got to come away from it, but it can run without you day to day.
So I think that's the first key thing.
Yeah, it's got to be with systems. It's got to be like we knew we could go on holiday for 2 or 3 weeks at a time.
2.5 weeks. You went Vegas, LA, right?
We did the West Coast of America, so we went from San Francisco to San Diego. So for example, before we moved to there, and we had 3 weeks away from the gym. We'd done it previously before COVID, even when we weren't as good. So I think if you've got a team in place that can run the gym day to day, you're profitable.
And you're still making sales.
And you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're not taking money out of site 1 to fund site 2. Or you might be in a respect, but it's not going to harm site 1 by opening site 2. You've got to have maybe a month's worth of, people will have different rationale behind it. Some people will say you need a year's worth of expenses site 1. I don't believe you do. I think you just need to, I think in your gut, and we knew in our gut this was the right time. We'd been with site 1 successful for long enough to the point where, where do we take this? This is a natural step for us now. I think maybe people can jump too quick. maybe a bit of ego and status involved there, maybe just the buzz of doing it. There's definitely, and maybe we took too long to do it. That's one thing I'd look at again. Maybe we could have done it sooner.
Was it 4 years?
We were
4.5.
Well, 2016, probably 6 years before we considered it and made a decision. But like through COVID, we definitely identified Nairn as a place we wanted to open site to. We just never actually fully were convicted.
COVID is a big factor. Obviously, the kids.
We lost 2 years,
2 or 3 years old. Then it's harder to juggle.
Yeah, like COVID was 2 dead years from a growth point of view, really, for a gym.
In Scotland, it was much stricter.
So strict, and you were more wary of finances. You didn't know where the country was going, and our kids, were either in preschool or early in school.
So the thing I really want to drive on is it's crucial for the business owner to not be the product or be on the gym floor, 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, because it's just going to ultimately stunt your growth as a business. Yeah. So you said, what is your involvement on the gym floor? Like, when was the last time you actually coached a session?
Back in, well, not this year so far. This is obviously end of January, so I've had 4 weeks, and this is quite difficult because it was always in bits, but to come totally out of it is obviously maybe a difficult transition for members to maybe know that I'm not coaching. Maybe sometimes even people also got very much used to me not coaching full time for a long time, because
you sporadically just drop in to cover shifts.
But I think the difference is now I'm still there. I think still being there is very important, and having your face seen. Your presence. Presence is there. That members still know that we really care about business. It's just evolved in a different way. Because
that's what I also see is site number one's super successful, systematized, the gym owners off the gym floor, and then they don't even go there. And then you systematize it to a point, but the members still know that you're the origin of the gym. Yeah. And they don't see you. There's no touch points from you as an owner. I think that's so important. Yeah,
I don't think these gyms are ready for that, yet. I think if it's a site one, especially, again, it could be all made up in my head for all I know. Who knows? But I still very much have the belief that there is still more complexity and more time required in Gym 1. Erin's and Kyle, who've done both very well in Site 2, they've pretty much been the origin of Site 2. So I guess members there aren't used to me so much. Maybe there's a bit of that. I perhaps, because Site 1 has taken up so much of my attention over the last 2 months, we haven't actually been able to go to Site 2 as much, which you could look at as a strength or you could look at as a weakness, in the sense of, like, if we haven't been for so long, it's obviously running very well. But if we did go, then this may have happened. There's always two sides to every story, I think, and it's getting the balance right.
Is the product the same?
Product's the same.
Same programming?
Same, yeah. Programming's 80% there. Obviously slightly different because of size. But on the whole, it's the same. Kit's the same. The session times are very much the same. The product's the same. It's just a more simple operation compared to Site 1.
Knowing what you know now, would you just have opened Site 1 at the smaller size that you have Site 2 at? Or would you have just gone hard with the 4,000 square foot?
I think, obviously, from when you look at rent and rates, they're huge in Site 1 compared to Site 2. You can look at it two ways, in the sense of, yes, it might be a bit simpler, but we couldn't have as many people in Site 1 if it was that size. And Inverness is a bigger place than Nairn, so there is that. But also, what we've been able to do, which I think is a huge strength, we didn't actually plan for so much, is our events, and the fact that people from Nairn can still travel to Inverness means that we can host things in Inverness that we couldn't host in Nairn. So Inverness is very much becoming HQ, in the sense of, it's a hub for DM Elite as a whole. So I think whichever way we grow, Inverness will always be that hub, and the catalyst for, proof of concept and ensuring things work. We ran a Friday Night Lights event last Friday. We had 54 people taking part in a session, and we had 6 coaches in taking the session. 60 people, we just couldn't do that in Site 2. We had a menopause seminar the week before. We had almost 80 clients in there for the menopause seminar. So there's things that we can do with that extra space that, although you can't always use that space every day through the week, there are added pros.
Another thing that we hear and see is a gym owner has a gym, and then they get an opportunity via a friend of a friend potentially, and the other gym is 90 minutes away, 2 hours, 3 hours away.
It's a lot, yeah. And
so what would be your advice, in terms of the location? If you're going to go ahead and do Site 2, what would you advise?
If within the first 3 months if something goes wrong, can you jump in the car and be there within half an hour max. And that was very much our thought process, because I guess to be transparent, to be open and honest with where we're thinking now, if we are to go with site 3, and the place we are looking for site 3 is a bit longer than, it's probably an hour from our house on an average, around 20-25 minutes. So that place has always been in our minds. We always thought it'd make a lot of sense to have a gym there, but it just wasn't the right time to move there. It was almost like too big a jump. We almost feel like we have to go here to go there, rather than just go here. And I think you can jump too quick too soon, because we have, I say fortunate, I think we like with the onboarding process of staff and with the amount of time we've put into staff and our brand, I think you could say we're fortunate in the sense of how well Site 2 has gone, but I think it's not all luck. I think we've proven to ourselves to be good at what we're good at. And I think, but if things did go wrong in that period, it was still manageable. Like we had a couple of snagging issues. I think we had a sort of a toilet issue with the toilet flooded in end of week 2, and we had an issue with the roof at the end of site 1, week 1. So within the first 2 weeks, we had like 2 issues.
You were in the car quick.
Yeah, I remember we had to. It was like 10 o'clock on a Thursday night within 1 week opening, and the 2 guys had already been in the gym that day, and this roof issue we had to go through for us. So we literally had to pick up Bo and Macy, our 2 daughters, throw them in the back of the car with pajamas on, sleeping. They're sleeping in the back of the car. Me and Amy are driving through at 10 o'clock at night to try and fix this roof issue, or to try and find it more, to try and get someone out at a time.
So it can be open at 6 a.m.
We had to actually close that Friday, because we had to. But that Thursday night we had to go through to make a decision. So we didn't want people waking up in the morning at 5:30 to then find out if it's open or not. So we decided to open the Saturday instead of Friday. And it's little things like that people don't always like take into account with a business. You know, you don't see that. It's not something you maybe promote on social media. It's just things that need done at any given moment. And you know, we were in hand to be able to do that. We could drive through within an hour. We knew the answer to the problem. Whereas if it's an hour or 2 hours away, that's not so simple if you don't have trusted staff in that area. But we do have trusted staff, and we are close enough, and I think that's been a massive factor in terms of how it's worked.
How are you doing team meetings now and cadence of that? Are you bringing them all together, or is it dealt separately?
We still bring them together. So we have a meeting on a Tuesday where we'll all be together. Every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, we'll all be together. The person that's maybe coming through from Site 2 will be slightly later, but we'll cover maybe issues in Site 1 before they come through. So it's where it's CPD, events, future pacing staff. And then on Thursday at 1 o'clock, we have them all together to discuss programming. Now, Site 2 probably won't come to that. So there's 2 meetings for Site 1, and 1 definitely for everyone. So we do bring everyone together as much as we can. We all try and train together as much as we can. We have a quarterly meet-up where we'll shut the gym for an afternoon or a day and get all together and just take 8-9 hours to discuss like what's happened over the past few months, where we're at now. So being aware and being, I guess, present of the past and future and where we want to go. So our goals and our personal vision is all in alignment with the collective of the gym. And I think that's huge. The guys are all pretty close, so they'll find a way to I guess spend time with each other anyway through their training as well.
Is there any other mistakes that you made or advice that you'd give to someone who's going to potentially go from 1 to 2?
Mistakes made. Yeah.
Or advice.
Advice, I think, yeah, to be totally honest, like there's not a lot we change. Things are going really well. Advice, I think what we did, which I thought was huge, because we knew the clientele in there and hadn't maybe worked with the equipment products that we use and done the sort of training we had. So when people signed up, they signed up for the 4 weeks. But what we did when we opened at the beginning of July, we had a full week of onboarding. So we got an in-body scanner, we got MyZone, we had the gym. So what we did was basically opened up the booking system and comp session for a week, where people could book in as and when they wanted to over the week to get to know us as people before the session started. Because what we didn't want was we opened in week 1 with 75 new people that have never used a skier, rower, bike, pulleys, barbells, and explain to them what this does, because it'd waste a lot of time. It'd provide a lot of friction. It'd be quite clunky experience, chaos for the member and the staff.
You know, I've heard Jamie Oliver's restaurants do this. So like week 1, it's free food and drink between a set hour. But what happens is mass demand, because it's free. Loads of people queue up outside, and then they only let a certain amount of people in because they've only got a certain amount of covers, and they do it for a whole week. And obviously that's when they're fixing.
They'll find a lot of issues, issues. Yeah, and that's something I didn't know, but I just knew that I'm willing to sacrifice that week of paid of money almost to make sure the rest of the year goes well.
So Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, they signed up over the phone, paid the 150-ish, but you didn't charge their card until
They paid. The money was in the account.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
The sessions didn't kick in. Gotcha.
This 28-day challenge didn't start until.
The main thing is you opened up cash flow positive, and then you credited them that grace.
So the week they had because they'd had bodies, quite maybe clients in their 50s, 60s as well with maybe injuries. So we had to iron out the 2 new staff going into an area with 75 new people. That's a lot of people to try and get to know quick. So we had to try and get to know those people. We did a lot of onboarding, like data via forums before meeting them. We did a lot of videos and we document the whole process for members so they knew what they're coming into.
So not just open doors, here you go, good luck.
Yeah, and that week was huge. I think that was one of the biggest things we did really well. Obviously the marketing went really well thanks to you guys, and the guys did well in the sales. It was 2 things that came together in terms of service, product and location that worked really well, but I also think that having that week was it would have been easy to just open that week and just get open quicker, but it gave us time to fix some issues, get to know the layout sessions. We didn't know, even though you set a gym up equipment wise, you don't always know how a flow will go with 8 people, because we originally thought that 12 people would be the max from opening, but we soon discovered that 12 is going to be too tight. So even just that 2 people, that small thing has made a big difference, I think, to the last 7 months.
I know you've heavily invested in your own education and mindset, personal development. I think it'd be good to just touch upon this and finish on this because what we see at FMA is the gym owner can have the nicest, shiniest equipment. They could be in the best location, but 9 times out of 10, what's stopping them progressing is not what they actually do; it's how they think. So, what have you done that's massively impacted you over the years, and what are you doing right now?
Yeah, I'm working with Ollie and Jens in the Gym Owner Network just now in terms of a big thing that we will work at, and we know is maybe one of our weaker spots is leadership, brand. Obviously Marchon has done really, very well as a brand. That's something we know we can pick bits from. We might not copy them obviously because it's a different demographic, different personal brands, and not that scale. But there's with mentorship and with people, whether it's podcasts or actual courses or proper mentorship, I think the biggest one is to take bits from them and create your own sort of assortment, I guess, of what you want to do, because I think it's very easy to I'm working with this mentor, I'm going to copy everything he does. But what that mentor does in that place with that people might just not work in your place. You've got to know your area, your culture. I know franchises, and I've done a lot of research in this in terms of franchises in America when they open in the West Coast or East Coast or Tier 1 to Tier 2 to Tier 3 cities. It's also different. The pricing's different. The culture, the communities are different. Some places are more, cosmopolitan. Some places are more rural. Some places are more young party-goer places. Some places are just more older people. So it's knowing your demographic and knowing, I guess, what works for you, but take the mistakes that these people have made, and because the mistakes that these people have learned from, they maybe cost them tens to hundreds of thousands. So although you might look at mentorship and help with marketing or whatever sales as a cost, it's definitely you're future-proofing your investment longer term, because you will lose that money personally if you don't learn from it.
I think the key thing is that what you have done is you've always reinvested in yourself.
Yeah.
Where some people in the industry don't want to do that. They don't want to do the time or the energy or the money because they might have the opinion that they know everything already, or that person, what can they possibly tell me? What can I learn from that person? But what we see behind the scenes is a lot of people shortcut. The hard. What we see behind the scenes is a lot of people leapfrog because simply they've tapped into networks and asked the questions, turned up, done the work, and got help where necessary to then grow and scale their business. Yeah,
I don't think it's a very ego-centered industry, and I think a lot of people, type A males mostly. I know there are females that have gyms, but on the whole, it's a male-dominant industry. That will, I'm sure, evolve over time. But people like myself, could maybe be seen to be I don't want to be vulnerable, protect my ego. I don't want to show people my weak spots, and I think that's very much an issue with the gym owner maybe is struggling. I think to be the best, you've got to be open to criticism, be open to knowing your weak spots, and have someone with that sort of third eye looking in your business because you only see the good things. So I think it's a combination of I think if you're very self-aware yourself, that's critical. I think if you have good self-awareness, I think between myself and Amy, because there's two of us that have eyes, different sort of rationale with it, but we're very similar in terms of standards, and we're very self-aware, we're very honest with ourselves and what we're not so good at. That's why we've sort of picked that help us now. But it's not always been the case. We've always needed mentorship. I think it's something that people maybe feel they need to be, it's fear of maybe missing out. I need to join that new mentorship because it's new. Especially like a client maybe joining a new diet club, you maybe potentially moan about. So it's not always a case of having to do mentorship for mentorship's sake. There is a bit of hand-holding involved there as well, which I think is not always required. Something you've got to go and find your own path, find your own way, learn the lessons. And for the last 3-4 years, we've not done any mentorship really, apart from working with you guys from a marketing point of view. It was very much been, whether that's right or wrong, learning from our own mistakes and taking what we know, because like I said earlier in the podcast, I think you can be overconsumed sometimes with information and you lead to do nothing. So
too many chefs in the kitchen and the soup doesn't get cooked.
Like paralysis analysis, or information paralysis, whatever you call it, it's definitely a thing. And I think having an eye on what's going on in the industry is very important. And if you feel you need that help from that one person, it's good, that one thing. Even though it costs a lot more money, you will get more back from it. And it's looking at things from an investment point of view around a cost. And you'll know yourself that's critical.
I'm sure people want to find out a little bit more about the business and yourself. What's the website? What's the Instagram handle for the business and personal?
Yep. So website is dmelite.co.uk. And our Instagram is at DM Elite Training. And my personal Instagram handle is at I'm Dan Moore.
Cheers, Dan, for the insights in moving from site 1 to 2. You didn't go into it in depth, but my guess is site 3 will happen at some point. That's up to you when you pull that trigger. But this has been very insightful for many of our listeners and people in the industry who have successfully built site 1 and then making that decision if they go to site 2. So thank you for flying down and coming on the FMA podcast.
Pleasure, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you can catch future episodes.